So, we have the 2x event going on right now, and I think a lot of people will want to know what to prioritize to make their 6-star. Okay, so I decided to list them out in terms of priority, where your, Shadow Prince should go. And so here is the list that we have. So basically on the top we have, 6-star please, if you want to use them. Basically you need them 6 stars to actually make them function in PvP or PvE. And by function, I mean all the base stats increase because that will add on to your multiplier. And also, you want that extra 10 speed from your 5-star and 6-star. Okay? That is basically the requirements that I have to make them 6-star. 5-star works, 6-star later. In this tier, basically if you put them to 5-star, you can use them already. In PvE, in PvP. Okay? And in 4-star, this 4-star category, basically you just make them 4-star so that you can clear content for now. Okay? Later on you can just invest into it when you have an abundance of resources. Okay? And the last one is don't be a spite, and I've already put some there. Alright? Why? Because the Shadow Prince are not, infinite per se. You need to allocate your resources to more important units, and therefore if you are investing into these units, you are trying to meme, and no hate on the meme, but you're wasting resources. And if you're those people that will cry and say, oh, the game doesn't give enough resources, but then you spend your resources on these people, you're a spud. Okay, so now that we've gotten all the tier lists out of the way, let's start by placing all the units in here. So first off, we have Holden. Holden, we need him to be 6-star. Why is that? Because we need his base stats all the way up there. Most of the time you're going to be using him, if you're going to be using him in PvE, you're going to be using him as a dispeller, as a stripper. He needs the 10 extra base speed, okay, to make your gearing a whole lot easier. And even if you're not doing that, the side effect or the silver lining to doing that is basically you're going to get his base stats up, making him more tanky, making him counter attack more. And therefore, if you bring him to PvP and someone sees a 6-star level 50 Holden, they are probably going to shit their pants. Okay? That's the whole reason why. Hoyan is also the same thing. If you're ever going to use her, you need her to be 6-star. She's a DPS that wants to kill people. Okay? And if you put her at 5-star, and you try to use her, and you try to cleave with her, and you don't cleave her because you're missing base stats, is that the game's fault, or is that just you trying to cope without, 6-starring her and giving her all the love she needs? Okay? And so if you're going to be using her, I have not personally used her yet, but basic data sets that I have from playing past games tells me that a DPS needs all the stats to help them do what they need to do. Okay? Mio. Now, Mio is one of them where you need 5-star to make her work. You can 6-star her later. She already does everything she needs to do. Unless you are looking for that extra 5 base speed, then you are going to 6-star her so that your gearing can be a lot better. But if you have her at 5-star, she's not a priority that you need to, 6-star straight away. Okay? But if she's your only LD, do it. Okay? Now, Freya. Freya, 5-star work, 6-star later. She's already a super fast unit. Okay, building her for PvE to clear content is already very easy. Even you have her at 5-star, putting her at 6-star just makes her gearing even more easier and makes her an actual speed contest in PvP. Besides that, if you are just using her to clear content, to clear, Doki Doki, she's fine. Alright, even Terra Maton, but you rarely will see that. So, leaving her at 5-star is fine. And the only reason you want to make her up to 6-star is to get that extra 5 speed. Okay, and that is the main priority that I'm going with. Lily, she is, your best contender. You are going to 6-star her anyway, so I'm just going to leave her there. Okay, there's no reason me putting her down at 5-star later and 6-star later. She works wonderfully. If you have her, lucky you. If you don't have her, you're probably missing out. Sorry. Messiah, same deal. Same deal as Hoyan. You need him to be 6-star so that he does damage. Alright? He needs that extra attack. If not, he's not going to be doing a lot of damage. Even though he's already defense penetrating and stuff like that. going into RTA and fighting a 5-star Messiah versus a 6-star Messiah is like night and day. I can promise you this because I've already done a few Fearless Arena, I've done a few RTA matches. Fighting a 5-star Messiah versus a 6-star Messiah feels completely different. Okay? Don't have to say more about that. Heinrich. Now, Heinrich, you can use him as 5-star, he works. Okay? You just need to be a bit more careful with your speed tuning, especially if you're doing it for PvE. Even for PvP, with you want him to be, either the fastest unit or a unit that is slower than, natural consensus buffers. Okay, so for example, if like a Lily goes at about 300 speed, a Freya goes about 280 speed, maybe you want him to put up the buffs first so that you can dispel it, right? You could do that, so you can run him maybe about 260, 250, no harm. Okay, so that's why he works at 5-star. So I'm just gonna leave him there. You can 6-star him later, but at 5-star he already does is what he needs to do. Doki also works at 5-star. She is more prowess or the skill ups intensive versus levels. Okay, the extra 5 base speed from 5 to 6 doesn't really help her much because you want to try to speed tune Doki in a way where you will push only your DPS because her push is basically a ladder kind of push. You want her to work in a way where when she moves, she's only pushing your DPS so that your DPS can take a turn again. Okay? Shadow Sanya works at 5-star. I don't have to say much about her. All you really need to do is just put a lot of bulk, a lot of accuracy on her. 5-star, she can clear stuff already. Okay? She is more skill intensive than levels. Ling Luo also works at 5-star. You can 6-star her later for more stats. And if you want to make her a little faster so that she can, quickly cleanse off the debuffs and you don't have to be so intensive with her speed in terms of your gearing, do that. Okay, but she already works, and if you you want to cheese your speed, you can always use Gigabyte. You can always use, Strive if you're really that desperate. Okay, Lian, again, DPS, 5-star she works. Okay, I'm gonna put her here because everyone resetted her. I'm the only one who didn't reset her, and a few more church members, so I'm gonna leave her at 5-star here. But she's a DPS nonetheless. If you're gonna want to use her, you need her 6-star because you need the stats. Okay, not only to do damage but to also survive. Romoka will be 6-star if you want to use her. Please 6-star her. Okay, why? Because she needs all the help she can get. Okay, she is going to be, your slave in Inferno Doki to begin with. And if you're going to be using her in Inferno Doki, where you already know that the stats are absurd on the AIs, you need her to be super stat hungry. And how do you become stat hungry? You need skill ups and you need levels. You need them hand in hand. So Ramoka needs to be 6-star. You can't use a 5-star and go into Inferno and be like, why am I not clearing Inferno? Rosa, same deal. Okay? Her base attack is already super low. Putting her at 5-star is not helping her cause. Okay? And if you're already going to be using her, that means you're already investing a whole lot of skill ups into her so that, you get that 100% follow-up chance into the Bladeheart Bloom debuff. You need to 6-star her if you're going to use her. Okay? Tiamat works 5-star. Alright? You don't have to prioritize putting the Shadow Prince into her, even in PvP. You just have to give her enough bulk. She already works without, the skill ups and stuff like that. You just need the basic stat line. So you don't really have to focus the 6-star on her. She works already. That's all I have to say about her. Chloros will need to be 6-star, especially if you're using Chloros in like guild bosses and Inferno Terramaton. Okay? All the DPS have the same issue. And if you're a Chloros Ditting gamer, you need both of them 6-star so that you do enough damage so that Terramaton doesn't lap you and slap you in the face. Alright? Same thing with Ciara. So I'm not going to say too much about that. Rahu can work 5-star, but 6-starring him makes him a whole lot better. Alright? The functionality of Rahu already is present, even at 5-star. Just 6-starring him makes him, that much better with the stats. Okay? But if you have a Raoul and you have all of these units up here that you're trying to use to clear content first, give them your Shadow Prince. Alright? Claws works 5-star. All you really need is speed, bulk, accuracy, and she already does wonders. She's one of the cheapest units to actually invest into, and she already does what she needs to do. Okay? In PvP, you don't have to worry too much because if you're drafting Claws, chances are you're trying to end the game pretty damn fast. Okay? Because you're not building her tanky, you're not trying to play the long game, you're trying to defense break, speed down, and you want to just cleave them. Okay? With all the hacking progress and stuff like that. Hellkit. Now, Hellkit, I want to put him here, okay? But realistically speaking, he is here. And that's because his shield is based off his attack. He also needs to be, tanky, and he needs to survive so that shield is meteor. So he needs to be 6-star if you really want to use him to, do PvP or push content. He works 5-star, don't get me wrong, but you will feel the difference. Okay, that's why I'm putting him here. Alright, just to save you. Because you're going to be using Hellkit, you're going to realize, oh, his shield's not tanky enough. This, that, yada, yada. You're going to find a lot of problems because I did that in the beta, putting him at 5-star, but I made sure that he was the fastest unit. I had some issues trying to protect that shield. Okay? But the second I 6-starred him and I got him to about level 14, 15, almost 20, that shield was a whole lot tankier. Okay? And that's why I'm putting him here. Lilith. Lilith works at 5-star. Even in RTA, you can use her 5-star. Alright, she just needs her skill ups. Alright, you want to make sure that your Graceful Mischief procs every time. You want to make sure that your pushing back is also 100%. Besides that, if you have good speed gear, you have good accuracy, Lilith works at 5-star. Alright, making her 6-star means she does a bit more damage because her max HP is now bigger. That's about it. Alright, now Tsukiyomi is one that you must 6-star if you want to use. And why is that? It's because she's already slow. And you use her as a pusher. Okay? And if you're going to be using her as a turn meter pusher, you need her to get the all 10 base speed in order to use her successfully. Okay? I'm not saying you can't use her slow. You definitely can build her tankier because a lot of her stuff scales off her defense. But chances are if you're using Tsukiyomi, you're using her as a speed contest. Okay? And if you're using her as a speed contest, you need her 6-star because you need the help from getting the base speed. Okay? That's basically it. Baeontin is going to be here. Veronica is also here. Okay? These two units are basically supports. Alright? And mostly supports, you just need a lot more bulk in your gear, and it's not that speed intensive. Okay? So if you are someone that wants to use these units for speed, you're going to 6-star her so that you can get the extra 5 speed and, do more contesting that way. If not, 5-star, plentiful. Alright, use them at 5-star. Eventually, you're going to 6-star every unit anyway. Okay, but they are not your priority. Mia, same deal. Supporter, works with 5-star already. You just need to speed tune your team and make sure that Mia is, in the right speed tune and not over or under. I don't have a lot of experience with Mia, but we all know what she does. Okay? 5-star, plenty, don't stress. Borgny, on the other hand, you need 6-star. Okay? Because his HP is entirely dependent on his attack. If you have him at 5-star, his damage and his health is going to be noticeable. Alright? It is going to be noticeable. And so, if you're using Borgny to try and play RTA with him, and you realize that he's a bit too squishy, chances are it's because he is not 6-star yet. Okay? Once you get into 6-star, once you get all of his passive, his skills up, all that stuff, he's a pretty tanky boy. He's a pretty tanky boy. Selence works on 5-star. 6-star obviously better, but if you're using Selence, you're mostly using her in Hoyan so that you can, put Forgetfulness on the ad so that the ad doesn't hit you. Okay, you just need to make her tanky. And her shield is all dependent on how much she can absorb through her skill ups. Alright, but she works just fine as 5-star. Make her 6-star eventually, but this is where she can stay for now. Now, Grey. Grey is going to be 5-star, work 6-star later because a lot of people use Grey as a crit buffer and the defense breaker. Alright? He doesn't, if you're using him for omega damage, then he goes into 6-star category. Okay? But if you're using him just to do what he wants to do, which is to crit up and to defense break, 5-star works. 5-star is plenty. Kazuyo is also the same thing. If you're using her mainly in Doki Doki anyway, and your speed tuning has to be in a way where if you're using Freya Kazuyo, Freya has to be faster than Kazuyo anyway, so you're not really looking for the extra 5 base speed, right? And so putting her at 5-star, she works wonderfully as already. You don't need her to be super fast, unless you're playing RTA, and eventually when we get to the super endgame, you're going to 6-star her anyway. Alright? Now, Sanya works on 5-star, 6-star later, same deal, supporter, you just need to put a whole lot of bulk on her, and there are cheesy ways that you can build her anyway, so you don't really need her to be 6-star. Alright, she's not on your prior list, but on skill ups on the other hand, she is on your prior list. Okay? Dinah, whoopsie, Dinah is here. Alright, Dinah, all you need her, you just need her to be 4-star to just clear content. Alright? You're gonna put all your super fast speed, effect accuracy gear on her already. All you want her to do is just land all her debuffs, and that's it. By then, you should have already cleared the boss, because that's the entire idea of using Dinah. Alright, you want the speed clear. So 4-star her just to clear content for now, it's fine. Marvel, he's a speed contester. Okay, he's pretty fast. So 5-star works for him, but a lot of people are going to 6-star him. Alright, but I'm gonna leave him here because you can leave him at 5-star. He's fine at 5-star. As long as your skill up, your S1 skill up is there, he's already gonna get an extra 12 speed already, and on a 115 base speed, it's pretty damn fast. Okay? Kraken, same deal. Same deal as Kraken. Alright? Sorry, same deal as Marvel. My bad. Ting needs to be 6-star, please. Okay? DPS, he needs all the stat he can help, because you're taking this guy into Inferno fights. If you're ever using him into Inferno Terramaton or Inferno Sharon, you are going to use him to do damage. And if you don't have the stat line, you're not doing enough damage, you're not clearing the content. Valerian, 5-star works, 6-star her later. All supports have the same, similarities. Quite easy to build. Just make sure that they are 5-star, you have their skill ups wherever they need it, and you're good. Okay? Victor will be here if you're going to want to use it, because he got nerfed, so he's definitely going to need all his base stats, friend. Alright? So if you're ever going to build Victor, please 6-star him. Okay? And if you are using him in RTA and he's only 5-star, please don't complain. Alright? He just doesn't have enough stats anyway. Alright? Viper, I think you can use him at 5-star. Okay? Because he is just skill intensive. He is not level intensive, although having him to have more HP means he stays on the field longer, he damage mitigates longer. Alright? But if you don't have the materials to 6-star him and he is, not your priority, he works on 5-star. So making him 5-star is enough already, just work on his skills. His skill ups. Chiaki the Echo is also going to be here because Chiaki is a turn meter pusher. You can 6-star her to, get that extra speed. She's not that fast, but she has respectable speed. But 5-star is more than enough. In the higher ranks of RTA, you're not going to see much of her anyway. And you're going to be using her mostly to clear content if you need, a turn meter pusher with an attack up. Alright, so she can work on 5-star, and if you really need the 6-star, she's, at your disposal anyway. Obo. Now, Obo, 5-star works just fine. You just need his skills up, and he's gonna land the dots, he's gonna land the stuns, he's going to, convert buffs into dots. He does whatever he needs to do already. Fangus is a DPS, although you can put him here if you're clearing PvE, but if you want to use him in PvP, you need him here, because he is the kind of dude that dual attacks, alright? And if he's a dual attacker, you want him to be, relatively tankier, because people are going to try to gun him down, and if they can't gun him down and he dual attacks at the right time, you can swing a match very, very quickly. Alright? Dorothy. Kazumi Kazuyo, 4-star, just to clear content for now. She's perfectly fine, you don't even need skill ups on her. She does what she needs to do already. Okay, just put some gear on her. Alright, 4-star level 40, works. Alright. This one, I'm going to put here, I don't have a lot of usage or mileage on her, so I cannot comment. Alright, but we all know that she is a dispeller that also does a hell lot of counter attacking. Okay, and if you're going to use her, probably in PvP, she probably needs 5-star. Okay, so I'm going to put her here. Now, Rin the Unbound needs 6-star. You're only going to be really using Rin in PvP because she is a speed scaling damage dealer. And if you're going to be using a damage dealer, what did I say? For the last, how many minutes? 20 minutes? You need all the stats you can get. Okay? This is more important on her because she's a speed scaling damage dealer. You want that extra 10 base speed. Quite simple. Rin can be here. If you're ever using Rin, you're using her for her debuffs for the taunts anyway. So, getting her to 4-star for a little bit more boost in her stat line, her base stats, and then slapping gear on her works. Alright? RC77 is also the same deal, but if you're actually using him to do PvP, you can probably 5-star him. Alright, but I'm going to leave him here because not a lot of people are actually going to invest into RC77 unless you are some obnoxious, obscure PvP player. Alright, overall, don't waste your time, please. Yang, 4-star, just to clear content is enough because all you really want him to do is to S2 and then next turn S3 to push your units, and that's it. Okay, you just need gear on him just to survive a wave. That's it, that's all you need. Alright, he's very, very cheap to invest. Turandot is also going to be here. She does about the same thing, but if you're going to be taking her into PvP for the strip on her S2, because it's 4 hits, she has 4 chances, then you probably want 5-star. Okay? So, I'm going to put her here for now. Tsutomu, I'm not going to talk about her. Chiaki the Echo will be here. Okay? She needs a lot of stats to survive, alright? Because she's a healer, and you want the supports to have enough base stats so that they stay in the fight long enough to do what they need to do to keep your DPSs or your bruisers or your hyper carries alive. So, if you're going to be building Chiaki, you can't leave her on just 4-star. You need her to be at least 5-star. Okay? Chaki the Guard. 4-star, plentiful. I use 4-star Chaki, or Chachi. I keep saying his name wrong. At 4-star, and I managed to clear Inferno Sharon. Alright, because all you need him there for is his immunity and his defense up. That's it. Okay? Once he does that, he can fuck off. Basically. Now, I left Vice here because I don't know where to rate him. A lot of people have been using him recently. So I want to say 4-star just to clear content for now. Okay? Chances are you're never going to use him in PvP. Ever. Okay? And if you do, your draft has to be something weird. And there's just not enough spots in a 5-man slot in PvP for you to put Vice in. But in PvE, that's a different story. So if you're using him just to clear content, just make him 4-star, give him the base stats that he needs, slap on some gear on him, and then he will do what he needs to do. Okay? And if you're really still struggling at 4-star, then if you can think about giving him 5-star, just to give him more stats. But I'm gonna put him here for now. Alright? Now, that is basically the entire list of priorities on who you should 6-star. Okay? Just to reiterate what I have done. Basically, everything in the 6-star, please, they need all the stats in the world to help them either to do damage or either to speed contest. Okay? In your 5-star, everyone in here works at 5-star already in PvP or in PvE, and eventually you're going to take them to the next level, which is 6-star anyway. Okay? 4-star just to clear content is basically just units that you just 4-star so that you can speed clear stuff. Alright? Or to just clear a certain content. And the last one, I don't have to talk about it. But that's it, guys. If you like this content, make sure you leave a like, comment, subscribe. Catch you guys in the next one.